to him about a family situation, and I was just telling him how difficult it was, and he said sometimes you need to cut off a limb to protect the rest of the body. Yes, sometimes you need to cut off a limb to protect the rest of the body. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well and are keeping safe. So in this video I'm going to be speaking about boundaries, and I'm so excited to be talking about this because this is literally conversations that I've had so many times with so many different people. What are boundaries? What do they look like? And how do we enforce them? So the first thing that we're going to do is we are going to look at the definition of a boundary. So a boundary has been defined as a line which marks the limit of an area. It is a dividing line. So essentially it's a line or a limit that you put within your life, and you basically say that a certain person or a certain situation cannot cross that line. Now, when it comes to our family, it can be extremely difficult to have these lines. I think a lot of the time with family, there's almost like an entitlement or an expectation that they deserve to cross these lines and have complete access to you. This can be true where there's maybe been a history of abuse, where there's maybe a history of codependency, or where there's just a history of people continuously overstepping the mark. However, no matter how difficult it is to enforce boundaries, whether that's with family or friends, it is really important to do so. It helps you protect your mental health. It helps you to not be pouring from an empty cup, but it also helps you to fulfill the purpose that God has for you. I've basically written down like 5 practical ways that we can have boundaries in our lives. And yes, so I'm just going to get straight into it. Okay, so the first way is by not giving everyone access to you. It's really important that you get to decide how available you are. Just because you have availability, it doesn't mean that you have to be available to somebody else. I read something the other day, or I think it was actually like a story or a video on Instagram, and it basically said somebody else's emergency doesn't have to be your emergency. We don't always have to respond right there and then and give somebody access to us if they're requesting access. We get to decide who has access and who doesn't. We get to decide how we spend our time, and we get to decide how available we are going to be for another person. I think it's really important that when we're talking about boundaries, this isn't about being manipulative, or this isn't about withholding something from someone and being like, oh, I just don't want to spend time with that person because I don't like them or whatever. It's not that. It's about sometimes loving people from a distance. You have decided that you need to protect yourself and you need to do something from a distance. So that's kind of what we're talking about here. So the second way is choosing your yes and no. So when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. And when you're saying no to something, you're saying yes to something else. You get to decide. You get to decide what you say yes to and what you say no to. You also get to decide how much of a yes you give to something, or how much of a no you give to something. So what do I mean by that? Somebody may be requesting something from you, and you know that you don't have all the hours to give to that. So what you may say is, hey, I would really love to help. However, unfortunately, I can only give you an hour of my time. And then you've basically said, you know, you can't give them the whole day that they've requested, but you said yes to the thing that you can give them time for. So in this instance, somebody may ask you to do something and you say, do you know what, I'm really sorry, I can't do that. However, I can do this. Or it's just a straight out no. And that's also okay. Sometimes you're just like, I'm really sorry, I can't be available for that. If you feel like you can't give an explanation, then you don't have to give one. Your no should be enough. Okay, the third thing is being okay not meeting people's expectations. This is another way that we can enforce a boundary, by basically saying, I can't meet everybody's expectations, and that's okay. Now, this gets really tricky when it comes to our parents. It gets tricky because sometimes our parents have an idea in their head of who they want us to be, who they think we should be, what we need to be to them. It can be really difficult if you have a parent who struggles to detach themselves from you or from your life, and that can be super difficult. But it is really important that you understand that you cannot meet every single expectation that they have. You need to make up in your mind that where possible and where you can, you will try to meet their expectations, but where you can't, you can't. Now, to be honest, There are probably some people who are going to disagree with me and be like, well, I can't meet any of their expectations. And that's okay too. You get to decide. And this is what I'm trying to say. This is the importance. You get to decide the expectations that you can and can't meet. Okay, the fourth thing, another practical way, is separating yourself from the family drama.
Who said that? Who said that? Who said that?
Yes, I said it. Separate yourself, honey. Separate yourself. You don't have to get caught up in everything. You don't have to get caught up in every controversy, every conspiracy, every argument. You don't have to do that. That is not your place, okay? You get to decide how involved in family drama you are going to be. So let's think of a practical example. So you know that there's a lot of drama happening in your family and it just seems like it's not going to be resolved. It's going round and round in circles. Nobody's listening to reason. Everybody just wants to have a go about everybody. You know that there's a particular family member who calls you to speak about this drama all the time. Now, you have two options. Either you could just tell the person, no, you cannot call me. I do not want to be involved in this. Bye. Okay, so that's option number one. Or what you could say is, I'm super busy right now. I don't have the capacity to deal with this. However, maybe we could speak next week for an hour and I can hear some of your concerns. So you're limiting the time that you're going to be available to get involved in this drama. You're limiting your availability. You're limiting your participation in the family drama. And this is really important, especially if the drama does not concern you. It's got nothing to do with you. There are other ways you can be involved. You can pray, you can offer advice, you can offer guidance, you can at times be a listening ear within reason, but you don't have to be caught up with every single family drama. It is okay to separate yourself. So, and then the final fifth thing, and I guess this kind of like ties into all of the things that I've said so far, is not allowing emotional like manipulation or guilt to get you to change a boundary. Now, I read something on Instagram recently and it said something like the only people that will have issues with your boundaries are the people who are benefiting from you having none. And that is so true. Like, the people that are going to have problems are the people that are basically overstepping the mark anyway, and now you've decided to change direction and they don't like it. But it is really, really important that you stick to your guns. It's really important that you act courageously. And it's really important that you enforce the boundaries that you believe that you need to enforce. I also listened to a really good podcast today on boundaries with parents. I'm going to link it in the description below. But one of the things that was said was that just because you feel guilty, it doesn't mean you are guilty. So somebody could be really disappointed with a boundary that you've put in your life, and now they're laying it all on really thick, and they're like, it's your fault this, or you should have done this, or I needed you for this, or if you hadn't have gone off, or if you you should have been there for me, and all of these different things. But sometimes you have to think, well, actually, I did my best in this situation, and there isn't anything else that I could have offered. There is nothing else that I could offer this situation or you. I'm at maximum capacity, and I physically cannot give anything else. Then how could you have done something wrong? And to be honest, like, you may have even done that from a long time ago, and now it's like, I just can't give anything else. I've done all that I can. And again, that's okay. Just because somebody makes you feel guilty, it doesn't mean you are guilty. Okay, guys, so those are all the points that I wanted to go through with you. And actually, there's one more. And this is actually something that one of my brothers spoke to me about, one of my brothers in Christ. And he said something, and I was talking to him about a family situation, and I was just telling him how difficult it was. And he said, sometimes you need to cut off a limb to protect the rest of the body. Yes. Sometimes you need to cut off a limb to protect the rest of the body. Now, again, I really want to be clear that this isn't about, oh, I'm cutting you off, or I'm cutting you off. Or, no. But if there is a relationship in your life that is consistently causing you harm, that is consistently causing you problems, that is consistently causing you to be upset, that is consistently hurting you, then sometimes you need to cut that relationship off in order to protect the rest of the body. I'm not saying it's going to be easy. I'm not saying the other person is going to go down without a fight. I'm not saying that there won't be drama around it. But sometimes these are things that we need to do in order to protect ourselves, in order to fulfill the calling that God has for us, in order to protect our mental health, and in order to be safe. It is really important that you can live your life and be safe with the environment around you. And sometimes people come into your space and they create such a shift that you're now unsafe, that you're now unsure, that you now lose confidence. So it is really important that if any of those things that I've spoken about, where you do feel like you're losing confidence and you don't feel safe and you don't feel protected and you don't feel like you can be yourself, then you may need to think about cutting that relationship completely in order to protect the rest of yourself. So I know this is like a really difficult topic, guys, and this isn't an easy one, and I don't take this lightly. And to be honest, it has taken me years to get to this point, after years of hurt and just so many things I've experienced in my own life. I now have no choice but to have boundaries. I now have no choice but to enforce these things, because it has been so damaging for me not to. So guys, I really hope this has helped you. If you want to add anything, then as always, please put it in the comments below. If you like this video, then please give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys soon in my next video.